Okay, we have some breaking news at this hour. We understand, Susie, there's a pursuit.
That's right. It's in the city of Anaheim. Desmond Shaw live overhead in Sky 9 to tell us more now. Desmond?
Yeah, Jeff and Susie, we are just now getting off the freeway here. This has been a really confusing pursuit. It looks like it's Anaheim PD in pursuit of an allegedly stolen SUV. This has covered a lot of ground, started in Anaheim, came northbound on the 5, was kind of skirting around the 91, went southbound 5, and then we came north on the 57, east on the 91, and now we are making our way, it looks like back through the Anaheim area. We may be on La Palma right now. That's going to be the 91 freeway that we're going around right now. So it actually even seemed like law enforcement helicopters were a little bit confused by this one as well. And give us a moment here as we get on the right side of this. But you see the spotlight from the authorities overhead. An allegedly stolen Range Rover here making its way, oh my goodness, stand by folks. An allegedly stolen SUV, there we go, right side up with the camera as we make our way through Anaheim, Jeff and Susie.
And Desmond, do you know anything more about the stolen car? Was it a carjacking? Was it stolen from a specific area?
No, we haven't heard any more with as far as any of those details go. We are paralleling the 91 freeway though, and it looks like we're headed west. They were just eastbound on the 91 and got off of the freeway here, and so kind of headed back towards the Anaheim, Santa Ana area, blowing through that stoplight right there. I believe this is Anaheim PD. They had a couple of helicopters overhead. They had what they call a Duke, which is Orange County Sheriff's helicopter, and then they also had Angel, Anaheim PD. And there seemed to be kind of some confusion. They were trying to get CHP involved in this, but you can see this is the police. I believe it's Anaheim PD that is dealing with this pursuit currently.
All right, this is Desmond Shaw. This is breaking news here on KCAL 9. We have a pursuit suspect wanted for stealing a Range Rover. This started in Anaheim, was northbound on the 5 for a time, then southbound on the 5, north on the 57, east on the 91, now on surface streets in Anaheim, going through stoplights. Of course, Susie, this is where it's most dangerous. He does not have his headlights on. He's driving at a moderate speed, but still these are surface streets at night. That's what makes this so dangerous. He's going through, of course, there's a green light, but he went through a couple red lights and stop signs and what have you, with 2 Anaheim police cruisers behind him.
And Desmond, did you say that they actually backed off for a moment and then re-engaged?
Yeah, actually, when we first heard about this, they had gone into tracking mode, so I'm wondering if the driving was particularly crazy at one point, and then they backed off. But you're seeing, pretty subdued, frankly, as far as pursuits go, and certainly the way that a lot of the pursuits have been going recently, where we've seen just the really crazy driving on the wrong side of the road and blasting along through red lights. We're not seeing that so far. So even though they're not stopping for the police, we did see them go through one red light, rolling through that red to make a right there. Not seeing the real crazy stuff like we have been seeing recently.
I wonder if you could put your maps up there for us, just so we have an idea. We know this is on side streets in Anaheim, as we're taking a live look at here, Anaheim PD. 2 cruisers behind. At one point in time, we thought CHP was going to get involved and intercept this vehicle because it was on a number of freeways in the metro. But this is a Range Rover. The driver wanted for stealing this Range Rover. This looks like a newer model one, Susie, like almost it could be a brand new model. But it's interesting, we were doing a report earlier today on the number of car thefts in LA County have certainly gone up just about 14–15% over the previous years. So this is more of a common occurrence that we're seeing here on the roadways as we have a stolen Range Rover, a driver behind the wheel being pursued by Anaheim PD.
Yeah, it's unclear how many people are actually inside this car. Is there someone else? Are there passengers inside this car? All we know it is stolen SUV, and we have no idea if they're armed or not, if this was some sort of carjacking maybe prior to, and maybe that's why they are in chase and not letting this one go. It's unclear right now. Desmond, where are we?
We are making our way into Fullerton. We're paralleling the 57, making our way northbound right now, maybe on State College Boulevard. I believe that's where we are at the moment. So rolling northbound. We're seeing speeds picking up a little bit. Anaheim PD, they were right behind them on the bumper there for a moment. It almost makes you wonder if they were considering a pit maneuver or something like that. but they did not try anything, and speed's still just a little bit too high, and frankly not familiar if we would see a Dodge Charger or a sedan try to do a pit maneuver on an SUV. I can see that potentially not going so well. Going underneath this tunnel right now that goes underneath the train tracks and coming back up. So we're getting into Fullerton, and you can see the spotlight still. I believe that is Duke that is overhead. That's Orange County Sheriff's deputies helicopter. Actually, it might be Anaheim. They have both helicopters up there for quite some time. But you can see going through that light and now making a westbound turn. Westbound with Anaheim PD not far behind.
Well, we don't know for sure the circumstances behind this stolen vehicle, but one of the reasons why police could be backing off is, Susie, they might have a location device on this vehicle. It could be LoJack, and they could be trying to work to disable this vehicle, or maybe they have a device and they know, that they can track it in other means. So that could be a possibility, as we're seeing this driver here speeding up just a little bit in the stolen SUV, now entered Fullerton. As we continue to follow this latest pursuit in LA County of this driver wanted for stealing this Range Rover. I'm just wondering if that might be something that they're considering, is they've seen this. I'm sorry, it's Orange County as opposed to LA County. I stand corrected on that. But I just wonder if that might be what's going on here. But they could, of course, just be following this person. They might know who that person is. They might know the owner of the vehicle. There could be all kinds of circumstances.
They might have spoken with
this.
the owner of the
They could have,
vehicle by now. Getting to them and getting some information about what happened, that could certainly lead them to whatever they need in their investigation as they continue this pursuit. But it's unclear right now what's going on, because we have no idea how many people are inside this car, what the situation was when they stole the car. But we do know that at some point the Anaheim Police Department did back off just for a moment and went into tracking mode, which means that they're only using their helicopters overhead, which was provided by the Orange County Sheriff's Department and the Anaheim Police Department. Sometimes when the drivers go too fast or driving recklessly, they will back off because they have to think about the public safety.
Yeah, and thankfully we haven't really seen a whole lot of aggressive driving from this pursuit suspect, and that is strange. I'm not saying I'm not condoning the moderate driving here. I encourage it, of course, but it's one of those things where you typically, when you see a situation like this, they try to escape and use drastic measures. And this is somebody that appears to be pretty low key, and they don't have their headlights on, which is odd, but otherwise no real danger surrounding this pursuit so far.
Desmond, we're still in Fullerton?
Yes, we were on westbound Commonwealth, and we just made a northbound turn, so kind of headed towards the Brea area. I was kind of curious to just widen out to see where the authorities were, and it kind of seemed like they backed off and even turned their lights off. So I wonder if they're kind of going back into tracking mode. Well, here you see another police here. This looks like Fullerton PD that is blocking off this intersection here just to make sure that no innocent people get involved. So we were on Lemon Street and now making another westbound turn. So just kind of zigzagging all over the place, not far away from where this began. This was in the Fullerton area around Fullerton Airport for quite some time. Making another westbound turn here, and the spotlight is gone now as well. Well, here's ground units. So it's kind of been a little bit of everything. We saw the spotlight come and go. We've seen the flashing lights come and go, making a turn now onto southbound Harbor Boulevard and back towards the 91 freeway.
If you're just joining us here on KCAL 9 News Today, this is breaking news. A pursuit of a stolen Range Rover in the city of Fullerton right now. This, we believe it started in Anaheim with the stolen SUV. This is a Range Rover. It started on the northbound 5, got on the 91, back onto the southbound 5 again, northbound on the 57, eastbound on the 91, and then exited off the surface streets. We've been through State College Boulevard, Commonwealth, past Fullerton Airport, and into the Brea area now. And I believe they're making all kinds of turns. It's unclear where they're going, if they're headed in any specific direction. They stayed pretty much in the Fullerton and Anaheim area as far as we know. Again, a stolen car. We have no idea what happened before this actual pursuit took place. We don't know if it was some sort of carjacking or maybe just stolen off of a street. But we do know that different agencies are involved tonight, including the Orange County Sheriff's Department, Anaheim Police Department, and the Fullerton Police Department.
You know, this driver has yet to make a left-hand turn. It's just made all these right-hand turns. You got to wonder if they even are trying to figure out what they're doing or where they are. It's almost like a NASCAR race. They just continue going around in a circle and a circle and a circle. And this is something that we've seen, on occasion when it comes to these pursuits. So maybe the driver doesn't know exactly how to drive the car. It's something that they stole and they're trying to get familiar with it. And I now see that they found the headlights because the headlights are on now. Largely, this pursuit was following this driver without the headlights on, and that includes, highway speeds on those highways of the 5 and the 57 and the 91. But now we're on surface streets. It seems that the driver wanted for stealing this Range Rover. It looks like a newer model one. Has found the lights, and let's get back up to Des. Des, what's the latest with you?
Well, we're back on westbound Commonwealth, so kind of going back to where Fullerton Airport and that vicinity, pretty close to the 5 freeway. So we'll be on the edge of Buena Park shortly at the rate that we're going, pretty close to where we had first heard about this pursuit. But remember, it was Anaheim PD, so this may have started southbound or south of the 91. You can see the police are still back there. It looks like they do not have their lights on, but they have had the spotlight on from overhead. And you're watching them when they have the opportunity, maybe coordinating with Fullerton police, actually blocking those intersections just to make sure that no one innocent gets involved in this. And if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't have any. These folks up here have probably no idea that they're only a few feet away from someone who's being pursued by police. Because this person is not driving in that maniacal fashion like we saw so dangerous, especially over the last couple of weeks. And this pursuit almost seemed like it got away from authorities, Jeff and Susie, earlier when we were hearing about it. They had their helicopter overhead, but they did not have their spotlight. There were no ground units behind this for quite some time when it got onto the southbound side of the 5. So it seems like Anaheim PD being maybe a little bit coy in this one, that maybe they don't want to get really aggressive in trying to stop this. It looked like for a moment like maybe they were considering a pit maneuver, but we didn't hear any talk about that, and they're just kind of hanging back and maybe just seeing how where this person's going to go. They don't want to try to agitate them.
In the past we've done this, Susan, and police actually knew where the driver was going. Maybe they've contacted family members and they're working with them to talk to this driver, and sometimes they get them to drive to that location and give themselves up. I don't know if that's the case here, but it just is one of those slower pursuits for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. And with spike strips, with pit maneuvers, I mean, there's a lot that goes on into the actual process of even condoning or permitting something like that. It's got to be approved by a supervisor. And obviously, as Desmond was talking about, it looks like the Anaheim Police Department being a little less aggressive than we normally see in pursuits. And, you always have to remember that there are reasons for that. There are reasons why they're being a certain way or being careful or whatnot. For example, with spike strips, you got to know which way the suspect is going, which way he's coming, he or she is coming, traveling. Got to deploy the unit far ahead enough to get spike strip out and in an area where it's actually safe for the officer. So that's going to take a lot of planning as well ahead to do something like that. And I wonder if they're in the middle of doing that right now.
Yeah, now to Buena Park. We just saw as they cruised that major intersection there was a unit there holding traffic. Maybe they were going to try to do a stop stick there. I'm not sure, but they certainly are following, as you see to the right-hand part of your screen, 2 cruisers following this pursuit driver wanted for stealing that Range Rover, although they are not lights and sirens, just kind of following at a distance at this time. When we first engaged with this pursuit, there were 2 units that were following closely behind with lights and sirens, and we had 2 choppers overhead as well, law enforcement choppers, that is. This is our chopper here as we take a look at this driver now coming to a full stop, which is somewhat unusual because he has gone through a couple red lights. Appears to want to go straight at this point in time, but I've seen him take a lot of right-hand turns. But now you see the 2 units standing back there a little bit, and this driver is deciding to go, well, another right-hand turn.
Yeah, and it really makes you wonder why they're not being aggressive with it, or why this person is not driving like, not that we want them to drive recklessly and dangerously, but, what their motive is right now and what their plans are, to get away from police. Usually we see them getting away at a high rate of speed.
Right.
At least they're trying to do so, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, driving very calm, and that's what we've been seeing pretty much throughout this entire pursuit.
I mean, police may have information that there's a child in the car, for all that we know, and that could be a case. We've done that in the past, and of course, that is something that they have to do completely different, knowing something like that. I'm not saying that that is the case here, but there is certainly a different approach to this pursuit than what we've seen in the past. This is Anaheim Police that's following. They have their own protocols. They have their own policies. As we're coming up on a little bit of traffic, let's see if this driver takes to the right and again takes another right-hand turn, which he or she has done many times. I've really lost count, but I haven't seen anything but right-hand turns from this driver. Let's go back up to Desmond Shaw in Sky 9 with the very latest. Des, we got 2 units behind. I saw another unit at intersection. Do you see any other police activity?
No, these are the only 2, it looks like, at the moment, Jeff. This might be an undercover. Actually, well, as I widen out, there are a few. You've got 4 there. One that looks like an unmarked vehicle. Northbound on Gilbert, and let's see if we continue rolling northbound. So on the edge of Orange County and LA County, making our way towards La Mirada and La Habra up to the Whittier foothills northbound on Gilbert. And it's certainly not like this suspect has not had the opportunity to drive fast if that was going to be their MO, to try to get away from the police. Pretty light traffic out here. You can see the speed limit on the street is 50 miles an hour. They're not even going that fast right now, maybe up to 40. So it's certainly not a matter of not being able to, just really, kind of an aimless strategy, maybe just trying to run out the clock for a little bit before they pull over and give up. I mean, they're even using turn signals right now. We haven't seen one of these, subdued pursuits in quite some time. It's kind of been this, white knuckle, holding our breath, blasting through red lights that we've been, unfortunately accustomed to seeing lately. And this one, it's hard to even know that it's a pursuit, frankly.
I mean, I don't want to make light of it, but maybe with gas prices, they're trying to conserve gas. They're going slow. I doubt it, but I had to throw that in there.
Premium.
I mean, we have record gas prices here in Los Angeles. So
that's true. And you wonder how much gas they started out with, right, during the pursuit. How much gas was inside this tank to start off with? Because oftentimes they'll run out of gas, and hopefully that is the case. Hopefully that's what will make them stop. Hopefully nothing dangerous to the public happens, and that's what they're always hoping. And you wonder why the Anaheim Police Department is giving so much space between this person and themselves, when usually they're a little, closer to them in hot pursuit usually, especially when the car is driving faster, obviously. But as we see, just a slow pursuit tonight.
Well, they certainly have a lot of backup. We counted, I think, 4 cruisers behind this Range Rover. The driver wanted for stealing that Range Rover out of Anaheim, and we're back into the La Mirada area now. As we approach another intersection, let's see if they take a right-hand turn. The last one, they went through the intersection. But following the traffic laws and coming to a complete stop here, you see the number of police cars that are piling up behind this pursuit vehicle, as this is a pretty slow chase. Although
way behind them.
Way behind them, yeah. Although they're inching up on that pursuit driver as he goes into the crosswalk and kind of cruises through. But this is one of those situations where right-hand turn, Susie. This is seems like the only turn that this driver can take is a right-hand turn.
Yeah, Desmond, so we're in La Mirada now.
Yeah, but we just made another eastbound turn from northbound Gilbert, so just kind of, circling around this area, and you have to wonder if this is where the person is from or where, this vehicle may have been stolen. And the way this pursuit is going, I mean, it really seems like the perfect opportunity if they want to have Fullerton PD, or if there's enough Anaheim PD units in the area, that they could get out with the spike strips, because then, making right-hand turns, and just kind of sticking in one lane, not zigging and zagging around very much, and with the slow speeds gives you, slow speeds give you a lot of opportunity to use those if they wanted. We're on Rosecrans headed eastbound right now, and coming up to another stoplight. So we saw them going through a couple of those stop signs and stoplights earlier, but not the case now. It seems to be obeying every single law except the most important one in this instance, which is to stop for the police.
Yeah, maybe they think police are just going to give up if they follow the rules,
Sure.
but probably not. Let's, if you get a chance, Des, I would love to have you kind of zoom in on one of those cruisers behind there. I thought I caught a K9, which would make a lot of sense. A lot of times they bring in the K9 unit. If that pursuit suspect decides to bail, they can use the dog to track him. Of course, if there was a situation where they wanted to try to get that driver to succumb to their demands, K9 could be very persuasive. I just wonder if that might be the situation tonight. Take it.
Yeah, I saw the K, but then it says K2 and K4, so I'm guessing those are just unit numbers.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't see K9 on any of those, but yeah, definitely a common tactic. There's I would almost say at least half the pursuits when they end, if they end with the suspect pulling over, or even if they end with the suspect crashing, but when the pursuit ends, you see the officer with the canine get right out there and be ready for anything. So it would be a very common tactic. I haven't heard any chatter about having a canine unit involved at this point, but giving a pretty wide berth here to this vehicle, as we are still in Fullerton. Fullerton, I think we're kind of learning how large of a municipality Fullerton is. This person has pretty much tagged all four corners of Fullerton now, as they make yet another right-hand turn away from Rosecrans and headed towards the 91.
Yeah, so this is almost what we call a tracking mode.
Yes.
The airship will take over the broadcast of where the car is, and will be calling out all the right turns and left turns that they're making to everyone on their radios. The black and whites actually will back off then and shut off their emergency equipment, as you've seen here. So their presence obviously is a little less noticeable and not, putting so much pressure on the driver himself. But this is usually when they're driving fast or recklessly. They don't want to keep putting pressure on that person to drive like that. And so that's why they'll back off. But it's unclear right now why they're doing so in this situation, Jeff.
It's a very expensive vehicle. This appears to be a late model Range Rover, could be a Land Rover, and that would be six figures if it's something that was within the last couple of years. It could easily be an over $100,000 vehicle that was stolen here, as we continue to follow this pursuit of a stolen Range Rover and the driver by Anaheim police. We have 4 units at least that we can count behind this driver. Started in Anaheim, wanted of course for stealing that Range Rover. Got on the northbound 5, the southbound 5, north on the 57, east on the 91 through Anaheim, Fullerton, La Mirada, back into Fullerton. And we've just been kind of following this. I don't want to call it a slow speed chase, because we've certainly seen slower speed, Susie.
Sure.
But this is maybe moderate and just kind of the speed limit, maybe even a little bit below that, and then also following the traffic laws and
obeying all the traffic laws.
At least since we joined in, there was a couple of times where they ran through some red lights, but now with those police officers turning off their lights and sirens, kind of had a chilling effect on this driver. It seemed to kind of put this driver into a mode of, that's one of those roundabouts, but in the mode of actually following the rules.
Yeah, it's true. Desmond, are you seeing the same amount of units behind this person? Still 2?
Well, they gave a
back?
ton of space to this person. Yeah, way back there. We were just on eastbound Valencia Mesa, but now making another right-hand turn down on a major. Now there you see one of the police helicopters overhead. I believe that was Angel. And they've actually kept both of their helicopters on this one. Kind of interesting. When you consider, they don't even have the spotlight on this one. And I think they're probably, technically in tracking mode right now. But if they may be using infrared on this pursuit, quite possibly. But keeping both helicopters.
Oh, might have lost Des there real quick. Stolen Range Rover pursuit still goes on. We'll get back to the signal, and it appears we have something going on with the camera there. Here we go. Oh, it's starting to pixelate and break up a little bit, Susie. But
yeah, just what's really sticking out to me is just what's happening right now with the police officers. As we're talking about, when we're in tracking mode, when we see this in, with the LAPD, they're usually in the tracking mode and they'll put their airship overhead. But it's also because the person is driving so recklessly. Again, we're not seeing that tonight in this situation. Yet, as Desmond was talking about, huge berth between the suspect and the police officers.
You just wonder if they have a lot of information that they know about this driver, and they may know where this driver lives. So maybe they've been in contact with the owner of this vehicle. It was a stolen vehicle. It may have been from maybe even been from a dealership or a car lot, and then maybe they have a tracking device on the vehicle. We're not quite certain, just trying to guess as to why the driver is actually relaxed and seemed to be driving, within the laws and the traffic speed limits and whatnot. You see there 35 is the speed limit, as you saw on the pavement there, and this driver appears to be going about that. So Des, we had some technical problems with you, but it looks like we got you back. We saw some people there who were starting to hit a more populated area, it appears to me, right?
Yeah, we're southbound on Harbor, headed back towards the 91 freeway. We're going to get another really ugly camera maneuver here, guys, and I apologize whenever the suspect goes directly underneath us right now. And of course, we're coordinating with law enforcement. Our camera does not like when we do that, so had to make an adjustment. But here we are, and you don't have any ground units back here for quite a while. The helicopters are still tracking this vehicle, but as we turn from Harbor now. Once again now making an eastbound turn, but just going to widen out, and starting to wonder if they're just going to track this one from the air completely. Now, they had already done that earlier in the pursuit, and then they were asking CHP to get involved, and then we never saw CHP get involved, and then Anaheim re-engaged, and it looks like they've completely disengaged. Their helicopters are still overhead, but no spotlight and no ground units, so we'll see what they do with this. Maybe they're trying to lull the driver into a false sense of victory on this one, and just keep an eye on him and have units kind of nearby but out of sight. Perhaps that is the strategy here, and nab the driver once they come to a stop. But about as docile as they come as far as pursuits and tracking mode goes.
Yeah, we've seen this before where they seemingly back off, but they are in the area.
Yes.
And we've seen this before. If they decide that it's time for them to bail, they get there pretty quickly. Those police officers do.
It's true, yeah. As I said, the airships are, giving out all the directions of where this person is going, obviously. And so, while they're in that tracking mode, officers are standing by, nearby, not too far away, as Jeff was just talking about, whether it be the Anaheim Police Department or the Fullerton Police Department. They're working hand in hand right now to coordinate their efforts right now, as we know. But as we've been talking about throughout this entire hour, pretty much, of this pursuit, that it has been one that's been very uneventful compared to most of the pursuits that we cover, which is a good thing. And also that they've been driving, at fairly speed limit, as we can see here.
Yeah, maybe this driver's just resigned to the fact that, that they're going to get caught. That we've seen that before, and they can just kind of slow down and behave. Or they think that they've gotten away with it, and they don't want to, take off in a bolt of lightning and then have those officers re-engage. Sometimes they can kind of feel lulled in the situation where they backed off, but we don't see any sort of aggressive driving from this driver at all. I mean, we've been here for most of the hour here. We've just seen basically right-hand turns and kind of, maybe once or twice going from the left lane all the way into the right-hand lane to make that right-hand turn. A couple of stoplights they've gone through a red. There was one stop sign I saw that they went through, but really just kind of blending into traffic, going slower than actually the posted speed limit says. I see a lot of drivers that pass it. So this person is either just trying to figure out what they're going to do, or maybe police have been in contact with them. Maybe they know the vehicle because it's been stolen. Maybe there's a locating device in the vehicle and they're going to be able to pick it up at some point in time. There's all kinds of scenarios that could be playing out here.
It's true. And as far as we know, we don't know exactly what that scenario is, but we do know that this all started in Anaheim as a stolen SUV, a Range Rover. We don't know how many people are inside this car right now. Are there any passengers? Is this suspect armed? Are passengers inside the car armed? Did police maybe get word of that perhaps they were armed, and maybe that's why they backed off, or maybe that's why they were keeping such a big distance between them? It's unclear right now, but we do know that the airships are still overhead between the Orange County Sheriff's Department and the Anaheim Police Department, and our Desmond Shaw live in Sky 9. Desmond, give us an update.
Yeah, we were just eastbound on Chapman now as we get ready to make a turn here leave onto northbound State College. And yeah, this allegedly stolen Range Rover Sport, maybe, thinking that they got away with this. The helicopters are still overhead. They don't have their spotlights on. And, even if you have the driver trying to peek through the sunroof up above them, I'm not sure that they would be able to see that there are helicopters overhead. So it's kind of hard to say what they're even doing with this. It may just be that the helicopters want to see where this ends, maybe get an address if possible, and then give that information, over to Fullerton PD, since it'll be in their jurisdiction, maybe apprehend them at a later time. They're obviously taking a much more different tact with this one. I'm guessing that this vehicle was not stolen by violent means, or they most likely would not be treating it in this way. This could just be essentially property crime. I mean, there's so many ways that a car could be stolen. I mean, this could have been stolen off of a dealer lot. We just had a story that I know I was reading about on CBSLA.com about someone who wrote a couple of bad checks and was able to drive off a $100,000 Lexus and hide it in their garage. So there's any multitude of ways that a vehicle can be reported stolen. And as we continue here.
Looked like they thought they were going to take a right-hand turn but went straight. Okay, Des, I'm going to have to interrupt you here real quick. This is KCAL 9 News at 9 o'clock. We will continue to follow this latest pursuit of a driver wanted for a stolen vehicle and pass this off to Pat Harvey and Leslie Marin for KCAL 9 News at 9.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeff and Susie. And yes, this is breaking news right now on KCAL 9 News, and we are streaming on CBS News Los Angeles. Jeff mentioned Anaheim police have been in pursuit of a stolen SUV. And Leslie, right now, I don't know, it looks like they could be in tracking mode.
Yeah, and right now it does look like Desmond Shaw is in Sky 9. But Desmond, it looks like this might be the first time we've seen this stolen Range Rover get on the freeway here. Is this a freeway?
Jeff and Susie, I apologize. Yes, we just got on the northbound 57 at Chapman, but right as soon as we were getting on the freeway, they are now getting back off of the freeway. So still in Orange County, and still seeing this, frankly, kind of tracking. I mean, I don't even think we could call it a pursuit at this moment. You see there's no spotlight, even though there continue to be the helicopters overhead, but no ground units for at least a half mile, if even that. So now kind of on the border of Fullerton, Placentia, and the city of Brea as this continues on surface streets.
Okay, well, Desmond, it's Pat and Leslie here in the studio now for KCAL 9 News at 9 o'clock. And you know something, we're talking about this being reportedly a stolen vehicle. Don't quite know the circumstances around that, if it was stolen from an individual, stolen off a car lot. But for most of the night, it appears that the driver made a few questionable moves there, maybe running a red light, but for the most part, they've been driving, quote, responsibly. But they've also been on a number of freeways as well. Is that right? I mean, I believe this started in Anaheim because Anaheim PD is the lead on this case, or on this chase?
Yes. Yeah, Pat and Leslie, I apologize. I was having some communication issues there. But yeah, so we're on Yorba Linda Boulevard right now, and we saw a couple of dangerous maneuvers, definitely going through a couple of red lights. Never saw anything like, driving on the wrong side of the road or anything particularly crazy. Certainly nothing like what seems to be, the case increasingly lately, where people are just throwing the dice, and gambling with their lives, driving, 70 miles an hour on the wrong side of the street. This has been the complete opposite of that. I mean, you even see a turn signal being used at this point, and then looking like they were going to make that left, and then now decided to go back out into lanes and even use their turn signal for that. So this is definitely one of the most subdued pursuits we've seen. But again, not even a pursuit now at this point. It's tracking mode, an allegedly stolen vehicle with Orange County authorities overhead. They had ground units for quite some time, but they are no longer anywhere near this, Pat and Leslie.
And when they go into this tracking mode, it's mostly because authorities and investigators, they have maybe some information that they can catch up to this driver some other time. You know, we don't know what kind of Range Rover this is, but if it's a newer model, it could have some sort of tracking device on it. They'll be able to find it at a later time. But as you said, Des, there are no units behind this vehicle that are currently pursuing it. And, you know, they may have made that decision because they think it's safer for the public if they're not pursuing this vehicle through these busy streets, and that they could possibly find this driver by some other means. But as you said, they're tracking it with the helicopter.
And Desmond, they've been traveling in a familiar area, and when I say that, because they have stayed in Orange County, it appears. I mean, from Anaheim to Fullerton, La Mirada, and now apparently back in Fullerton on several freeways at one point. I mean, the northbound 5, 91, southbound 5, northbound 57. But for the last, I would say, at least 15 minutes or so, would you say, Des, that they have been on surface streets? And I don't know if I would say they're in a pattern, but they seem to be in the same area.
Yes, definitely have been in the same area. The furthest south that this went was Santa Ana down by the Orange Crush, and then exited the freeway, made their way towards the North 57, and then came back to where this kind of all started in the Fullerton area, and we crossed all four corners of Fullerton, and then we were just kind of in Placentia and headed back south now as we're east of the 91, maybe on Placentia Avenue, and headed back kind of towards the freeway here. But there's down to just one helicopter now as well. I believe it's just going to be Angel, Anaheim PD, that continues to be over this. You do see a ground unit right there. It might just be a coincidence. They're obviously still calling out. So it's actually Duke. It's Orange County Sheriff's Deputy's helicopter that is overhead. They're sharing the information with all of the agencies, so it's not like anyone is in the dark about this. And maybe just trying to decide if they want to continue doing this. This might just be one of these ones that they decide to get later.
And, you know, we've seen this before, too, where they stop and maybe try to do a foot bail, and the law enforcement shows up out of nowhere, and they take the suspect into custody. So tell you what, Desmond, we know you're going to keep your eye on this, and we will get back to this as, you know, more developments happen. But we're going to do some more news in the meantime.
Okay, thank you for joining us tonight at 9. And tonight, new fears: the Russian military may use chemical or biological weapons.
And while the Russians continue to make gains,
stop, those vehicles will be able to swoop in and take whoever's in this vehicle into custody. And you do have still one police helicopter overhead. Initially you had two, so you had both the Anaheim police ship named Angel, and you had the Orange County Sheriff's airship named Duke. Angel left likely for fuel, would be my guess, and the Orange County helicopter has remained overhead. There's an ambulance there, but unrelated to any of this. It's simply leaving the station. And he continues here now, Orangethorpe Avenue, which he's been on before. He's all these streets here in the Fullerton area, for the most part, have been traversed during the course of this pursuit. We've seen him on Euclid, on Brookhurst, on Commonwealth, Harbor, you name it, he's probably been on it if it's anywhere here in the Fullerton area. But coming under the 57 freeway here, we'll see him pop out the other side. And there he is. So he did have a chance to get on there at Orangethorpe, chose not to. For the time that we did see him on the 57 freeway, it was only for one exit. So he got on at Nutwood and then exited at Yorba Linda, and has been on surface streets since that point. We've seen him drive through Fullerton for the most part, a little bit of Placentia, which is actually where we're at now, and then just touched in Anaheim as well. But for a time, he was actually on the freeway. He got on the southbound 5 freeway, made it all the way down to Tustin, really, before he turned around back to the north. And he actually just ran that red light, which is probably like the second red light we've seen him run, which is pretty crazy considering how long this has been going on. For the most part, he tends to either just wait at those or make a turn so that he doesn't have to run the red. So Orangethorpe at State College. There's a little bit of construction here. State College has been under construction for a while. And this is a really busy intersection. There's a lot of gas stations here, so it's always busy. And so he set up to make that right-hand turn, or left-hand turn rather, but decided against it and is going to proceed straight instead. Had he made that turn to go southbound on State College, that would have led him to the 91 freeway and he would have had a chance to get on there. But instead, he's choosing to continue westbound here on Orangethorpe, again, through a construction zone. So we hope that all the construction workers who are out here tonight are safe. But for the most part, he has been a pretty safe driver, sticking to surface street speeds for the most part. Really no close calls that I can remember, except for running at least 2 red lights that we've seen. Okay, Orangethorpe at Acacia, making that right-hand or northbound turn here onto Acacia. And here comes another turn. This time it is a westbound turn onto Kimberly. Now, I'm familiar with Kimberly because I know that the train tracks run on Kimberly. So you'll see the train tracks there just on the top of the frame. So this is a highly industrial area. Train tracks on one side, commercial buildings on the other. And again, no police cruisers behind him, just the helicopter overhead. But again, the cruisers are in the area, so whenever he does come to a stop, which he'll have to, either on his own volition or because he's out of gas, or if he gets in a collision of some sort, which hopefully doesn't happen, he'll have to come to a stop. And at that point, the police cruisers will be able to move in and take him and whoever else is in that vehicle into custody. And he is making that left-hand turn onto Raymond, which will put him northbound on Raymond, which we've passed before. He wasn't on Raymond before, but he passed it earlier when he was on Chapman Avenue. And he just ran that red. Actually, no, it changed on him, so it was green. I was going to say he ran the red, but no, he did not. It changed to green before he got there. And for those of you who are just joining us, we of course thank you for your viewership. We are streaming on NBCLA.com and all of our streaming platforms, including Roku and Apple TV. In fact, I'll throw that up for you there so you can jot down the information real quick. If you'd like to continue watching this on your smart television, just search for NBCLA on either Roku or Apple TV. Copy that. Thank you, Jim. So he just turned, and he's going to be coming kind of under us here for just a second. So he's right behind us, Jim, but he'll, as you make the turn, he'll get back on your side. Okay, so he's back on Commonwealth. We've seen him on Commonwealth a couple times already. Commonwealth. Okay, cool. Thank you, Jim. So my pilot, Jim, was telling me about the location where he heard that they're going to deploy spike strips which of course we won't share until after that point because we wouldn't want him or her to somehow get tipped off about the fact that they're coming up, which the way that he's driving just goes to show you that he did see them. So you saw him swerve there. It was because there were some spike strips in the road. You see the officer there up on the sidewalk there. He's actually the one that had deployed them, but the driver was clearly able to see them. Even though they're black and it's a dark area, he saw them and was able to avoid them and is now starting to pick up speed here southbound on Lemon from Commonwealth. So unfortunately, the spikes didn't work because he saw them, he was able to dodge them, and it seemed to have agitated him a little bit. He was driving so calmly, regular speeds, and now we're looking at speeds that are about 50 plus, which is a little high for these surface streets here in the Fullerton, Anaheim area. So continuing here on Lemon, that Lemon will drop him off on the 91 freeway if he wants to get on the freeway instead. For the most part, he seems to favor surface streets. Okay. Making the turn there onto Orangethorpe. He's been on Orangethorpe before, and he's on Orangethorpe again. Headed westbound here from Lemon. So next major is going to be Harbor, which is a very busy area. There's Harbor that he's just crossing over right now. So he's basically running parallel to the 91 freeway, just on the north side of it. Let's see what he does here. He ran the red. He ran the red. The officers tried to deploy that spike strip, but he was able to beat them to it. The officer wasn't able to throw it out until after the vehicle had passed. So 2 unsuccessful spike strip attempts by the Anaheim Police Department have failed to do anything to this guy's vehicle to try to do some sort of damage to those tires, to try to get them to start to deflate, to start to bring this to an end, because it's been going on for quite a while now. I'd put it at about an hour at this point, and this driver just continues to drive in circles here in the Fullerton area. Okay. Making that turn here onto Euclid from Orangethorpe. And he just turned onto Hill Avenue. This is definitely an interesting choice as far as streets are concerned, because it's a small street, highly residential. You see homes rather on either side of the street. So it's really interesting that he would even know how to navigate through here unless he is very familiar with this area, which he definitely seems to be, because he's able to just use the alleys to get in and out. And I now see him coming out here on Orchard Avenue. That was Orchard Avenue. He's now on Orangethorpe. So as far as freeways go, we are just north of the 91 freeway. The 5 freeway is to our west. The 57 freeway is significantly to our east now. So if he's gonna get on anything, he could actually stay on Orange Thorpe, but it would lead him right to the 5 freeway if he wanted to get on there near the auto center, where you have all those car dealerships there in the Buena Park area. So he could do that, or of course he can turn at any point and just make a southbound turn and get on the 91. But I don't know if he will, because for the most part it seems like he just prefers to be on surface streets. And you saw the officer there. It looks like maybe that officer could have been getting ready to deploy a spike strip, but the vehicle passed by him before he could do that. And so picking up speed just a little bit. We're in the low to mid 50s here on Orange Thorpe, which is high for this surface street. I don't know the exact miles per hour they're supposed to go, but I'd put it at about 35 to 40. Okay, coming up to Gilbert, crossing over Gilbert. We saw him on Gilbert earlier for quite a while. He took that till it reached Rosecrans, and then took Rosecrans over in that area. He's still westbound Orange Thorpe, so just north of the 91, continuing west. Passing by a Metro bus right now. All right, cool. Yeah, no worries. Love you too. Now coming up here to Magnolia. And he's waiting for the red, but he will run it if he has to. Let's see what he does. He may also just turn. We've seen him do that time and time again, where he'll just turn instead of having to wait. But right now there's really no officers in sight. So he may not feel the pressure to run it. There we go. So he's going to make the southbound turn. Southbound turn on a Magnolia. So going under the freeways here, so he's just under us. It looks like he may be setting up to get on the freeway. He's just under this overpass. He's waiting in that first lane, so we should see him pop out here. And I think that may be a police cruiser behind him. Yeah, I think that is a police cruiser right behind him. Yeah, so sure enough, that is the police vehicle right behind him. Here's the car, but instead he's going to cut over and proceed straight. So he's going to go southbound on Magnolia, over the 5 freeway. And he'll be able to get on the 5 if he stays in these lanes. But you see the unit there putting a little bit of pressure on him. And so it looks like he does not appreciate that whatsoever, makes that U-turn, and now you see 3 police cruisers behind him. I believe it's the CHP. I'll be able to tell here in a moment when I look at the doors on the vehicle, but it's just under us here for just a moment, and I'm going to widen out a bit because I don't want the camera to spin. But here he pops out on the north side of both the 91 and the 5 interchange there, and he's set up to make that right-hand or eastbound turn on Orange Thorpe, but instead he's going to proceed straight on Magnolia. And as I mentioned earlier, Magnolia actually comes to an end right at Fullerton Airport, so he'll be forced to take that either left or right when he gets to the dead end. Right now we're passing by Buena Park High School. And in spite of the high school being on the left side of your screen, there's a lot of homes on the right. Thank you, Jim. So CHP was the units that you see here that they're in pursuit. However, because they're back on surface streets, they're asking if the police units, in this case Fullerton, if they want to take over, since he's not on the highway anymore. So we'll see if the police units decide to take over instead. And there are officers up ahead. They may be deploying a spike strip, so let's see what he does when he gets to the dead end here. Again, Magnolia dead ends here. There's the strips, and he's able to dodge them. Wow. Time and time again, he's been able to do that. And now making that westbound turn onto Commonwealth from Magnolia. We're just on the south side of Fullerton Airport. This CHP unit really giving him lots of pressure. It almost looks like he's setting up for a pit, but I can guarantee you that at those speeds, he's not going to try it. They need to slow down in order to have that happen. Ideally, you want to be about 35 miles an hour. Okay, northbound. There's the night sun. So we haven't really seen the night sun much during this pursuit. They were just letting him kind of drive around without the night sun on and without any police units behind him. But now it looks like you have your full pursuit package back in play. Airship overhead with the night sun, and you have CHP in pursuit. Although it wasn't the CHP originally, it was Anaheim Police that originally started this pursuit about an hour ago or so. But now, because he got on the freeway there for a moment, or got close to the freeway, rather, he technically didn't get on it. He just got very close to the 5 and the 91 interchange, but on surface streets, they're now taking over and really not giving him much room here on Dale Street in the Buena Park area. Eastbound on Malvern now, which he's been on before. He just tapped the brakes there. Let's see why. He has the green. So continuing here, eastbound Malvern. Let's see how many units are in pursuit. So it looks like we have 3 units in pursuit, and the airship overhead all started out in Anaheim's area. Anaheim PD tried to pull over this vehicle because they believed it to be a stolen black Range Rover, and the person in the vehicle just decided they weren't going to stop. So that is what originated this pursuit, and it's been going on now for about an hour, mostly on surface streets in the Fullerton area where we find ourselves now with the California Highway Patrol in pursuit. So just behind those trees, but they'll pop out here just on the other side. There you go. Okay, you see that cruiser there on the crosswalk. He may have been there to set up a spike strip. Couldn't see it from our angle because of the trees, but it didn't really seem to slow him down too much. And the CHP isn't saying anything about it over the scanner, so I don't think he ran a spike strip back there. Scanner 2, yes. Okay, we're still on Malvern here in the Fullerton area. We're coming up to that Amerige shopping center. You saw the units there of the police department off to the top of the frame. They may have been there for a spike strip. Okay. Making the turn here on a Bastion-Chury from Malvern. Bastion-Chury, of course, a major street here through the area. And that cruiser really not giving him any room to play with. I think he may try to go in for a pit when the time is right, because this street is perfect for it. It's nice and wide, no cars on either side, and the speeds are ideal. So everything is kind of in play for him to do it. Of course, unless they know something we don't about it, like perhaps that the person is armed, then he wouldn't try it. So we'll see what he does. I am starting to see a little bit of traffic on the opposite side of the street, so they'll have to wait till it's fully open on either side, because they, of course, don't want to cause the vehicle to go spinning into a civilian vehicle and possibly cause somebody else to get hurt. But if I had to guess, I would say that they're going to try to do a pit here sooner than later, ideally on Bastion-Chury, where we find ourselves now, because, again, it's a nice and wide open street. Okay, slowing down a touch. He has the green, so I don't know why he's slowing down. Okay, coming up to a red light, setting up for the left-hand turn, which will make it a westbound turn. I'm sorry, I got a little turned around there. It's actually northbound. So northbound Euclid from Bastion-Chury. We're in Fullerton. I see a little bit of movement in the vehicle, but again, we don't know how many people are in the vehicle or whether the driver is even a man or a woman. All we know is that Anaheim police officers originally tried to pull over this vehicle because they believed it to be a stolen, but the driver decided he or she was not going to stop, and the pursuit has been circling the streets of Fullerton ever since. At least an hour. I'd put it closer to about an hour and a half at this point. Okay, now he's on Rosecrans. He's been on Rosecrans before. All of these streets up here in this area of Fullerton are just like this one. They're actually pretty wide and pretty open at this time of night. So even though they didn't attempt the pit on Bastion-Chury, it doesn't mean they can't do it now, because there's very little traffic. I'm not seeing cars parked along either side of the street, really no pedestrians. still in Fullerton and still on Rosecrans Avenue, coming up to Canyon Drive. You've got, let's see, you've got 4 units now. So 4 units of the CHP behind the vehicle. Initially, when they got behind it, they actually asked if the police department wanted to take it instead, since it was on streets and not on the highway, but I didn't hear them get a response. And so at this point, it looks like CHP is here to stay, and they'll continue to follow this vehicle. Just a second, Jack, let me ask. Jim, what's our fuel situation? Jack, make that 1:15, 75 minutes. Southbound Gilbert from Rosecrans. Okay, no worries. So they're saying that the police department is only going to assist with the spike strips. They will not take over the pursuit. So that's what I just heard come across the CHP scanner. So it sounds like CHP is going to have to continue to physically chase this guy, but the police agencies will help with putting out spike strips when they can. Copy that. Thank you, Jim. So my pilot, Jim, is looking up ahead, and he can see that there's some units parked up ahead a couple blocks away where they may be out there to deploy a set of spike strips. But I'll let you know once we pass that point, because, of course, we wouldn't want to give out any specifics to where it would tip off this driver in any way and help him to avoid hitting them. Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah. Okay, there's the spikes. You can see them there. They kind of tried to put him in a perfect spot, but he's going to be able to dodge them. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. They had 2 sets of spike strips, and he just kind of gingerly made his way around both of them and is able to dodge them completely here on Gilbert and Malvern. That is crazy. He's been able to dodge every set of spike strips that he has come across. Now 5 units of the California Highway Patrol in pursuit. We're back at the Emerige Shopping Center. I hope I'm saying that right. Here in the Fullerton area off of Malvern. Okay, so it looked like he was going to try to go south there on Target Way, which is a little street. It might have even been a dead end because it's a really commercial area. It's just south of the shopping center. I don't know that it would have led to anything. So it was to his benefit he didn't turn that way, but unfortunately it could have brought this to an end rather quickly if he had. And once again, thank you to everyone who is joining us online and all of our streaming platforms, especially viewers like Liz of Sherman Oaks if you'd like to watch us on your smart television, if you have one at home, you can do that. So just look for us, NBCLA, on either Roku or Apple TV. You will find us on there. It's all free. Just search NBCLA if you'd like to watch us on the big screen instead. Whenever we have a breaking news situation like this one, you'll be able to watch us on there. Of course, we'll always be available on NBCLA.com as well, and on the NBCLA app. Making a turn here on a Euclid. So this is southbound Euclid. This will lead to the 91 freeway. I don't know that he'll get on the freeway because he just doesn't seem to favor freeways. He likes these big surface streets of Fullerton instead. So clearly an area that he is familiar with, because he hasn't driven into a dead end yet. And the one, oh, here we go, spikes. Right there, finally. And there was that second set. I think both of them got him. Yep, successful spike strips. Finally, that's what we were waiting to hear on the scanner. It's finally what happened. So he ran over the spikes. He's slowing down. The spikes won't immediately deflate the tires or anything of that nature. He'll still be able to drive, but eventually the air will start to come out and he'll have to come to a stop. Picking up some speed here, Euclid at Valencia. So finally, after about 7 spike strip attempts, he finally drove over 2 of them. So I don't know if it's affecting both sides of the car or just the right side, but as time goes on, we'll start to see maybe some sparks flying, maybe the tire treads start to disintegrate, and eventually he could get down to the rim. So we'll see what happens here as time progresses. Again, spike strips don't immediately pop the tire or anything like that to where it would immediately bring the pursuit to an end. So we likely still have some time if this person decides to continue to evade the authorities. And as I widen out the shot, it'll really give you a look at the full pursuit package here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units of the CHP in addition to the airship overhead. He's starting to lose control of the vehicle, though. You see a little smoke there coming. You see those tires starting to act a little strangely there in the back. If you look at that rear driver's side tire, it looks like the tire tread is beginning to go. So exactly what we thought would happen with those spikes is what is happening here on Orange Thorpe and Pacific. We're still in Fullerton, not far from the 91 and the 5 freeways, but with a car like that, I doubt he'd want to get on the freeway now. Barely has any control of those rear tires. Coming up to Brookhurst here. And he may be turning in here, so let's see what he does. This is the, should be the 99-cent store parking lot. Maybe widen out? Yep, sure enough. So it's the 99-cent store parking lot at Orange Thorpe and Brookhurst. So this parking lot is the 99-cent store on the front side, and then the back side is the 17th door. But it looks like he was able to make his way out onto the street, so now he's on Brookhurst. I'm hearing that they have permission to pit, so let's see if it happens. The unit getting into place, gonna kiss that rear bumper there, cause him to spin. You see paper flying everywhere for some reason. now the vehicle going in the direction of the officers, that will be considered an assault with a deadly weapon on a peace officer because he came right at them. And now slowly trying to get away because the vehicle really isn't doing much more for him. He's basically running on flats now. Very little traction control. I think he's only got one good tire. Headed back now towards the 99-cent store parking lot. Look at that rear tire, guys. Crazy. You can see him moving the steering wheel every which way, trying to get some control, but with tires like that, it's just not going to happen. Fortunately, the parking lot's pretty empty at this time of night, so if it ends here, it wouldn't be bad, folks, because at least it'd be out of the way, no one would get hurt. But he's not ready to give up, unfortunately. Civilian vehicle there, just kind of trying to get out of the way. They're saying it's a solo occupant, so they're saying it's a male behind the wheel, just one person in the car. He's going to give it another try on Brookhurst here. I'm hearing that they have the police canine ready to go as well, should his services be needed at the termination of this pursuit. And where those papers came from, that was really interesting. When the officer pitted the car, or did the pit maneuver on the car, rather, I saw paper flying everywhere for some reason. I don't know where it came from. But we just passed that point there. It was just on Brookhurst and Southgate. We're still in Fullerton, and you can see those tires holding on for dear life, really. You see the speeds there, under 10 miles an hour. He's trying to do whatever he can to get away. But that vehicle is not going to cooperate looking like that. And unfortunately, the saddest part is this vehicle doesn't even belong to this person. It's likely a stolen car. Officers are saying that he's riding on all four rims now, so those spikes got every tire. Initially, we weren't sure. It seemed like maybe it was just going to be one side, but sure enough, it's all four. But he's chugging along here northbound on Brookhurst through Oak. Eventually, Brookhurst comes to an end here. It comes to an end at Commonwealth. Okay, here we go at Valencia. There's the fire station there on the left side of the screen. But he's going to proceed straight through here on Brookhurst. Again, I'm hearing on the CHP scanner that there's just one male adult behind the wheel. So at this point, it seems like there are no passengers. It is simply the male driver. And I'm hearing that the officers are pit approved. They're allowed to do it, but they're saying he's going too slow. So it's the opposite end of the issue we were having earlier. He was going too fast, and now he's going too slow. ideally, you want him to go about 35 miles an hour because you'll get enough momentum to cause him to spin. You saw what happened the first time they tried a pit maneuver. Because he was going relatively slow, he was able to drive right out of it and drive right towards them, which is never good. He'll likely get a assault with a deadly weapon charge for that one when he came at the officers in his vehicle. And that was near Brookhurst and Orangethorpe. So continuing here on Brookhurst, again, it's going to come to an end at Commonwealth, which is coming up here in the next quarter mile or so. If he goes left, that's going to put him towards Fullerton Airport. If he goes right, that's going to put him into mostly commercial area of Fullerton. But it looks like he's going to go left, which is going to be west, so that'll put him closer towards Fullerton Airport. So we've actually been on this street before when he drove by once earlier tonight. And there goes the tire. Just saw it go flying. So he lost one tire. I believe it's the tire from the rear driver's side. Again, the police canine is on standby. If they need him at the end, if this guy decides to not comply and get out of the car, then they will deploy the police dog if necessary. There we go. Look at that tire. It is barely holding on. He lost one tire. It actually was the front tire that he lost. And here goes the CHP unit moving into place. He wants to do the pit, but the one complaint I heard him make earlier was that the guy was going too slow, so he couldn't do it. There we go. Pushing the bumper. The car spinning out, and now he's going to try to drive right out of it like he did the first time. And he's going to be able to continue. So continuing westbound here on Commonwealth towards Gilbert. So that's the problem, folks. When the car is going too slow, you do a pit, but the vehicle's able to regain control and drive right out of it. That's why ideally you'd like a speed out of about 35 miles an hour for the car to eventually shut off, which is what happens. These modern cars, when they sense that they're spinning out at those speeds, they'll just turn off. But in this case, it just wasn't fast enough. And making that northbound turn now on to Gilbert. Again, we've been here before, so we're just, oh, there we go. He might spin out of control just on his own. He tried to continue north and is instead U-turning, kind of going around in circles here in the direction of the officers, going into the Mobil gas station. Correction, 76 gas station. So perhaps this is it. Let's see if he pops out the other side or decides that this is where things are going to end. It may be over, folks. So we're going to bring News Chopper 4 Alpha around. Okay, we're at the intersection of Commonwealth and Gilbert. We're at the 76 gas station. The driver door is open. You see him there. He just dropped a black bag as he was stepping out of the vehicle. Hands up in the air. So it does look like he is complying. But what officers want to see is they want to see him step away from the car. They'd like to see him throw the keys out if possible, which I didn't see. And his hands are still a little too close to his body. So he needs to put those up into the air just to, there you go. That's exactly what they want to see. And now he's getting down on the ground. And again, we're bringing the helicopter around to give you a better shot. We don't believe that anybody else is in the car. All we had heard was that it was the male driver. But you never know. There's sometimes they think that there isn't anyone else, and then there's a car full of people. So they will treat it as if there are other people inside and make call-outs once they have the driver in custody. There we go. They're going to put the handcuffs on the driver. You see that one officer standing there with his taser, and another team of officers approaching the vehicle now. They have to clear the car to make sure nobody's inside. They'll typically also pop the trunk just to make sure nobody's hiding in the trunk of the vehicle. Again, this was believed to be a stolen Range Rover. Where it was stolen from or when, that is unclear to us, but we know that it started in the Anaheim area. Anaheim PD initially tried to pull this guy over, but he failed to yield, and the pursuit was on for a very long time, almost 2 hours, and finally coming to an end here in Fullerton at the intersection of Gilbert and Commonwealth, with really no injuries to report, at least none that we witnessed, no collisions. So even though it was a very lengthy pursuit, fortunately, it really ended as well as it could have. So that's going to be it for us for now. We are going to start to prepare now for the NBC4 News at 11 o'clock, coming up here in about an hour or so. We, of course, always thank you very much for your viewership. Once again, I'm Eliana Moreno in News Chopper 4 Alpha, along with my pilot, James Pollard. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you at 11.